Another complicated chapter of Washington football has concluded as FedEx has now pulled out of its naming rights deal to our Toilet Bowl Stadium in Landover, Maryland. We currently have a nameless stadium out of Maryland. Also, a nostalgic former stomping grounds, RFK Stadium, is one step closer to the finish line as Washington's mission to returning to the District of Columbia to its rightful home at RFK, as the bill was passed by the House yesterday and is now on to the Senate. News coming out of the DMV on the political side, on the football side, and on the player association side. Washington failed another test from the Dan Snyder era, but what is new? Let's discuss. What's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? It's the final day of February, and per usual, plenty to discuss when it comes to our Washington Commanders. Just to get it quick and out the way, because I'm not going to go too into detail about the FedEx thing. There was 2 years left in our naming rights deal to our stadium, FedEx Field. FedEx decided to pull back. I guess having its name attached to the skid mark of football stadiums, of sports stadiums alike, has finally been too much for them. They no longer want to be aligned with the franchise, even though we've finally taken a step forward. We're cool. I wonder if we're going to remain nameless or if we're going to go with something generic like Commander Stadium. Or are we going to start taking bidders? Because that DC stadium is happening. RFK 2.0, the Superdome, it is happening. We're about to get to that in a second, but let's talk about the current stadium. It was put out yesterday by Jason Wright that we are going to be here beyond 2027. So somebody got to slap their name and their business across our ass stadium. I know we just put another $75 million in renovations on the stadium and the team headquarters, both of which are going to be replaced with new state-of-the-art super complexes over the next 5 to 7 years. But somebody has to slap their logo and their name across our stadium. I always, like my boy Zach and a few of my friends, we always hated the whole FedEx aspect of it because they had colorful shit. They had like the FedEx colors all over the place. It kind of disassociated the team from the stadium. On top of that, the stadium's running out of hot water. Pipes are bursting on fans. Guardrails are falling on opposition quarterbacks. Nothing has went right with that stadium. A stadium that's only been up for like 30 years is falling apart. That shit is falling down like Pompeii, and FedEx has seen enough. They said, stop the count. They are no longer putting their name and logo on our stadium. So just like the last few years, we have another name conundrum when it comes to the Commanders. We were the nameless football team. For quite some time, I ended my videos by saying, hell to the nameless football team. We went from the football team to the Commanders to pending, because they're not going to be doing it anytime soon, but the name could change again. I don't think we need to even rehash that discussion, to be honest. But now the stadium's nameless. Now we are Commanders Field in Landover, Maryland. I don't know what we're going to do there, but I am standing on business that whatever the new stadium at RFK site is going to be, I think it's going to have a sports book's name slapped across it. So, for example, FanDuel Sportsbook Superdome at RFK Stadium, DraftKings Sportsbook at RFK Stadium. I think one of those two is going to be the new stadium name. So to get the ball rolling and to get the process started on the bidding rights for the naming rights for the new stadium, someone might as well slap their name over our bum-ass stadium right now so they could be first in line, right of first refusal when we get our new stadium made. So I'm very curious to how that works. Clearly, this is not something the new owners did. This is something FedEx was going to do regardless, because we've been moving very methodically. We've been picking up brand deals left and right. Business is happening and moving as it's supposed to be now. So this isn't something the owners didn't do, which made this happen. So that's a relief. But On to the bigger topic. Everybody and their mother wants to see this stadium return to Washington, D.C. We're called the Washington Commanders. We used to be the Washington football team, and before that, the Washington Redskins. And this seems like quite a big deal, but the RFK Memorial Stadium Campus Revitalization Act was passed in Congress yesterday. The U.S. House passed a bipartisan deal backing the district's plan to offer a new, rebuilt, revitalized RFK Stadium as the future home of the Washington Commanders. The legislation is expected to pass in the Senate as well and then be approved by President Biden. This is another step in bringing DC football back to the nation's capital, and it looks to be on track to be taking place in the coming weeks. So be on the lookout for it. And the vote was not close at all. Like, it was 347 to 53 yeses for the bill to give the RFK site back to DC to then be granted to the Washington Commanders to build a stadium. I'm here for it. As someone who lived in Virginia most of my life, I selfishly wanted it to be in Virginia for the longest because I know about the land and the infrastructure, but it's only right that Washington returns to DC. It's the home of, it's Chocolate City. It's the home of this team. We're talking about the site that heralded all of our Super Bowl championships, the site that housed this team from 61 to 96. You know, I wasn't alive to see the stadium in its heyday, to see the seats rocking, to see the seats cushions flying, to see all the glory, the NFC championships that took place there. But my father's told me about it. I've seen all the NFL films. I understand the lore and the nostalgia of it. And you want to really pump burgundy and gold into the veins of the fair weather and the casuals that left the fan base over the year because of Napoleon Bonaparte Snyder. Put the team back in DC and everybody's going to be back on board. Because not only are you putting the team back in DC, we have a very liquid rich ownership group. Therefore, we are going to have a badass stadium, a badass motherfucking stadium, Superdome, state of the art, world class. SoFi East. You seen SoFi Stadium in LA where the Chargers and Rams play? We're going to have that, our own version of that in DC. And our new team headquarters is going to be lit. So, but I know the stadium is probably not going to be done till around like 2030, but y'all can break ground somewhere in Loudoun County for a new team headquarters because our team headquarters got to go. That shit is ass and a half. And if you've seen the new Players Association report card where they poll everybody in the league on, they polled over 1,700 players across active rosters and practice squads about the working environment for the players. Every team gets a report card. It's about the staff and it's about treatment of families, food and cafeteria, nutritionists, locker room, training room, etc. And Washington ranked number 31 in the league. You got an F- for treatment of families. I don't even know what an F- is. A D+ for food and cafeteria. B- for nutritionists. Hey, we got B on there. F- locker room. F- training room. Everything's ass, bro. I know these college kids coming from these world-class, state-of-the-art gymnasiums that these colleges have built, they come get drafted by Washington and feel like they're in middle school again. I can't even say high school because I feel like some of my high school facilities was better than Commanders Park, Ortho Virginia Training Center at Commanders Park. Whenever you build a new one, don't make it such a mouthful as well. But back to the DC stadium. It has one more hurdle to cross, and it's expected to be passed by the Senate and then signed by President Joe Biden once it gets there. Washington is returning to the district. You can act like you don't see the vision. You can act like you don't see the tea leaves. It's inevitable at this point. It's crossed the major hurdles. It has one last step because once the Senate passes it, it's on and popping, and they can start getting the renderings, the blueprints ready. I cannot wait to see some 3D renderings of what our new stadium is going to look like. Until then, we're going to have to see a bunch of fan-made shit and a bunch of art like you're looking at right now. And don't get it twisted. These guys want to make that a venue that hosts Super Bowls, that hosts festivals, that hosts shit like the Olympics. They want to bring all these events to the district, the nation's capital. So be prepared. There's going to be a roof on that motherfucker, whether you like it or not. Oh, football needs to be played in the elements. It needs to be no, it's not. It's not. In 2024, football needs to have a controlled environment. The paying customers at a state-of-the-art stadium should not be paying top dollar to get rained on, to get snowed on, and have pipes burst on you in a stadium. Put a roof on it. If you want to have the option to allow weather in the stadium, make that shit a convertible top. Drop the top on that hose sometimes. But I expect a translucent roof stadium, and I expect it to be right at that RFK site, right by Stadium Armory Metro site in Washington, D.C. The bill was passed in a landslide vote, and we're that much closer to the team returning to its glory for real. So you're telling me in the midst of 2 years, Washington's name changed. We changed ownership. We finally got a GM. We hired a coach that appears to be exactly on the same page as the GM. We're about to get a quarterback in the coming months. And we're about to get a brand new stadium in DC, new team headquarters, all brand new everything. This is quite an exciting time to be a Washington fan. As a 32-year-old fan, I don't have much positivity to cling on based on the history that I've been a part of. The history where I've never seen an 11-win season. I've never seen a quarterback throw for 30 touchdowns here or get to a second contract here in DC. I don't know what the NFC championship round feels like. I don't remember what the divisional round feels like because it was a whole child support cycle the last time we won a playoff game. 18 years ago. It's about to be 19. It's coming on 19 years. Our team had a whole ass child become an adult since the last time we won a playoff game. Lord Jesus, but things are turning. DC Stadium on the way. New headquarters on the way. New quarterback on the way. It's looking good right now. And I'm very excited. I will have an update for you whenever we get any more about the stadium in the coming days, weeks, months. I expect for this to be expedited because Washington needs something to show the fans. Washington needs to put out here's the plan for what that stadium's going to look like. And I imagine as they move forward with the Senate and stuff, we may start to get something because these guys are pragmatic. These guys are process oriented. Josh Harris is not playing any games. And speaking of Josh Harris, he's attending the combine alongside Adam Peters and company. And that should not scare Washington fans as much as I'm sure it's probably right now scaring Washington fans. This is not some Dan Snyder shit. Like, everybody fucking relax. Adam Schefter posted, attending his first combine as the Washington Commanders owner, Josh Harris has set in and taken part of each of the 6 interviews that the team has conducted with the top quarterback prospects in this draft. Most owners don't attend the combine, but Harris is not only in Indianapolis, but he's a part of the quarterback interview process. Here's why I have no problem with that at all. Reason number 1, this is Josh Harris's first full-time year as the managing partner and majority owner of the Washington Commanders. He's trying to understand how the sausage is made in this football life. He knows how the NBA works. He knows how the NHL works. He knows how the Premier League in soccer works. He's still understanding the NFL business. If you've seen the way that he handled the interview process for head coach and GM, the guy is very process oriented. He did not drop $6.05 billion to just be complicit to a bunch of bullshit. He's not being meddlesome. He's not going to be in there trying to run the interview. I'm sure he's just being a fly on the wall in the room and just to kind of see how the sausage is made. How does Adam Peters, Quinn, and the staff, how do they go about vetting these quarterbacks? Also, you're the owner of a franchise. A quarterback is the most important position in all sports. As your first year of owner, with your team making a decision as monumental as the quarterback position, you think you want to hear from these guys too? This is the guy that's about to be your CEO of your franchise, the face of your organization that you paid billions, capital B, billions for. I would kind of want to see where these guys' head are too. So I have no issue with Josh Harris sitting in on combine meetings. I'm all for it. Unless it came out that he's running the meetings, then I would have a lot of issues because that's very odd. That would be odd. That would be strange. But there's nothing strange about it. We're in a very unique situation here. We have a new ownership group. We have the second pick of the draft. We have money. We have a new general manager. We have a new coach. We are all new everything going into 2024 and beyond. And Josh Harris is just living vicariously through the guys that he's hired. He's empowered individuals and give them full autonomy to run the organization. He's shown not one sign that he's going to be a meddlesome owner. He has bigger fish to fry. He has a stadium to get ready. He has a headquarters to get ready. He has a current stadium that does not have a name that he's putting over $200 million in total in renovations into. He has a lot of big boy business to attend to off the field. He's not going to be walking in the draft room and saying draft a kid because he went to school with my son. He's not going to give the keys to the franchise to a kid and have him overrule the coaches and sit him down with his father and tell him we're not going to run the zone read offense. None of that's going to be done. There's no more call me Mr. Harris. Don't look me in my eye. There's none of that going on here. So I want all of Washington Commanders Nation to relax. Let your hair down, lay back, woosah, relax, meditate, and let these boys cook. Adam Peters and company, Lance Newmark, Dan Quinn, they got us. Josh Harris will not be running these interviews. He will be a fly on the wall and just seeing what the process is like during the draft combine, because it's a very interesting process. You got to see what makes guys tick. And I saw they dropped a picture of the 6 top quarterbacks that we've apparently interviewed so far since we've got to Indy. They dropped their combine pictures, and I'll tell you what stood out to me when I see the combine pictures of these 6 quarterbacks. Caleb Williams been in the motherfucking lab. That boy looks like Will Smith and Hancock. That boy ain't seen a barber since December. He's been in the lab working on his draft process, working on his scripted pro day, and getting right for this whole spectacle that is the draft cycle. These boys look ready to go. I wish they were throwing this week, but I'll be paying attention to McCarthy, Penix, Nix, and the rest of the QB class. The combine gets going underway at 3 o'clock today. I work night, so let me get a couple hours of rest in before these drills start at 3 o'clock. Cannot wait to start the combine because I treat the combine like a game, baby. I sit back, kick my feet up, take notes, mental notes, and watch the entire thing. I watch every position group and every workout they do, and I love the coverage by Daniel Jeremiah and Rich Eisen every year. It gets me absolutely giddy. Big fan of the Underwear Olympics, but in summary, FedEx Field is no longer FedEx Field. Pour one out for our dead homies. FedEx Field. Washington's bill was passed for RFK by the House and is now moving on to the Senate for the final steps to be finalized and then signed by the president so Washington can be granted to build its new state-of-the-art Superdome at the RFK site. RFK 2.0 loading. Josh Harris has been attending the meetings with the quarterbacks at the NFL Combine, and Washington is going to be interviewing everybody. So don't be surprised. So far, all we've heard is all the quarterbacks and Darius Robinson, the edge rusher out of Mizzou. When news comes out, I'm here to talk about it. Per usual, it's your boy Rio Robinson. If you're not, subscribe to the channel, sub up to a real one. Not going to give you a whole spill on it. Y'all know the vibes. Hail to the Washington Commanders. Until next time, Commander Rio, out.